After a series of price hikes, one oil company is implementing a fuel price rollback for a limited time starting today. We'll get the details on the ground live. Following the 10 weeks of continuous oil price hikes, commuters are now also feeling the brunt, particularly from overcharging PUVs. Presidential candidates weigh in on the current fuel crisis, as well as on the sanctions imposed by other countries on Russia. Most presidential and vice presidential candidates are back in Luzon today to convince voters from the country's largest island. And Blackwater finally ends its historic 29-game losing streak following a surprise win against the top-seeded Magnolia in the PBA Governor's Cup. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Charles Lejano. As fuel prices continue to increase and with another massive hike expected next week, Petrogas has announced that they will implement a rollback nationwide. To give us more details, we now have Justine Punsalang live from Taguig City. Good morning, Justine. What's the situation looking like over there?
Good morning, Charles. We have actually a good news for motorists out there as Petrogas implemented an oil price rollback following 10 consecutive weeks of price increases. In Petrogas' announcement yesterday, the price per liter of diesel will decrease by 5 pesos and 85 centavos, while 3 pesos and 60 centavos will be deducted to per liter of gasoline prices. So today, diesel now costs 60.70 per liter, while unleaded is at 71.65 and per liter of premium is 72.15. One of those who came in early learned about the oil price rollback from the news yesterday, and so he immediately seized the opportunity of a lower price of gasoline. Others, however, seem to have stopped monitoring the prices of fuel, but expressed happiness on Petrogas' effort to lessen the burden of motorists. They said the 3 peso and 60 centavo reduction on the price per liter of gasoline is already a big help, since despite the constant increase of fuel prices, their salaries remain the same. However, they just wish that other fuel companies would implement similar rollbacks. And a reminder for the public though, this rollback at Petrogas branches is only effective starting today until Sunday, March 13. Charles, employees of Petrogas here in North Signal, Caloocan remains to be busy as motorists, mostly motorcycle riders, continue to come here to get refueled. No worries though for those who want to get refueled here. There are no long lines here in Taguig City. Charles?
Thanks for that, Justine. That was Justine Punsalang reporting live from Taguig. Jeepney drivers are not the only ones struggling with the current oil crisis, as commuters are also affected, with some complaining of drivers overcharging fares. Mobile journalist Yeda Pascual gives us the front seat to the story.
Pending government's decision to hike fares, some jeepney drivers have allegedly decided to charge or if not, keep the change instead. For some passengers, they are okay with this.
Kung ang pamasahe ko mula Baclaran hanggang dito ay 12, pwede na po siguro yung 15. Huwag naman po yung buong 20 pesos.
Malaki na rin kasi yung ngayon bayarin sa gasolina. Kaya pabor din sa akin na ganun kahit na hindi na ibalik yung sa okay.
But the LTFRB has a warning to jeepney drivers.
Wala naman kasing problema kung kusang binibigay po ng ating mga commuters na nakakaintindi. Pero po yung kapag hindi po nagsusukli yung ating mga drivers ay overcharging po ang magiging offense po niya.
If caught, jeepney drivers may have to pay a fine of 5 to 15,000 pesos. The vehicle can also be impounded or the jeepney franchise cancelled. For commuters who want to complain, they may call the LTFRB hotline at 1342. But for jeepney drivers in multinational Parañaque, they say they do not resort to this.
Nagsasauli po kami, Navy pa rin pasahe namin. Navy pa rin kami dito sa multinational. Hindi kami nagtaas ng pasahe. Yung ibang mga pasahero, hindi nila kinukuha ang 10 dahil alam nila na wala nang kinikita kami rito.
Still, they call on the government to act immediately on the fare increase petition.
Kailangan po namin ng konting dagdag. Tapos na po kami sa sobrang mahal ng presyo ng diesel. Halos wala na kayo may uuwi.
For some commuters and drivers alike, raising fare rates requires a good balancing act because regardless of what seat you take, be it that of the drivers or the passengers, everyone is bound to be affected. Mobile journalist Tia De Pascual, We Are One News.
Presidential candidates weigh in on the continued oil price hikes caused by the tensions in Eastern Europe, as well as Washington's latest oil ban on Russia. Mon Gualvez with the story.
As the oil crisis drags on due to Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine, presidential aspirants give their 2 cents on what should be done to arrest the rising price of fuel. In his campaign in Pasig, Senator Ping Lacson suggests to revisit Train 2, especially the sunset provision on the suspension of excise taxes on fuel.
Gusto namin, revisit na lang yung sa Train 2 eh. Huwag na lagyan ng time frame. I-open-ended na lang yung, wala na yung mag-expire ng December 2020 or 2022. Kasi hindi natin, unpredictable na talaga ng ang presyo na langis.
Labor leader Calyodi de Guzman, meanwhile, believes suspending the oil deregulation law is the way to go.
Para makagawa sila ng mga batas na makapag-mitigate, makapagpipigil kung hindi mamitigate yung epekto ng pagtaas ng presyo ng gasolina. Sa pinakamaganda, sa kagyat, dapat isuspend yung oil deregulation law.
For Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who visited Abra in Kalinga, it's time to revisit his dictator father's policy in the 80s, the Oil Price Stabilization Fund.
Wala tayong control dyan sa presyo ng langis. What we can do is mitigate the effects. Sana ka, kung may price stabilization tayo, by the time na maubos na yung OPSF, ay maayos na yung problema.
In Butuan City, Vice President Leni Robredo says she does not fully back the sudden suspension of excise taxes on oil.
Merong suggestions na yung excise tax patuloy pa din sa gasolina pero alisin siya pagdating sa diesel sa kerosene para ma-socialize. Halimbawa yung pagbigay ng ayuda, kailangan gawin na kaagad yon.
Meanwhile, presidential aspirant Senator Manny Pacquiao in his visit to Pampanga addressed reports that some of his supporters were scammed. Some were promised allowances, cell phone, and even motorcycles, while a few paid 250 pesos for an ID. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno does not have a sortie on Wednesday, but he will visit Nueva Ecija on Thursday. For News 5, Mon Gualvez, We Are One News.
The newly appointed COMELEC commissioners officially started work on Wednesday as the poll body conducts its first en banc session. First on its agenda, the COMELEC's fact-checking deal with Rappler. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro with a report.
The Commission on Elections finally conducted its first on-bank session with a full set of commissioners. Newly appointed COMELEC Chairman Saidamin Pangurangan took over the reins of the commission. With him, 2 new commissioners, George Garcia and Aimee Neri.
I stand before you today as a defender of democracy, who will be independent and conscientious in giving life to the fundamental freedom of suffrage.
Pangurangan is the second Muslim to chair the commission after recently retired former chairman Sheriff Abbas. Commissioner Aimee Neri attended the session physically, while Commissioner George Garcia attended via Zoom, as he was still filing his withdrawal from all the cases he is currently handling.
We will advocate and ensure that we will have an honest, fair, and free conduct of election.
The COMELEC officials stood pat on their decision to tap online news site Rappler for its fact-checking initiative. COMELEC temporarily suspended its agreement with Rappler after the Solicitor General filed a case against it in the Supreme Court.
Simply suspending the implementation of the memorandum agreement. We're not abrogating it.
The Commission is also going to continue demolition of illegal campaign materials on public property. The High Tribunal stopped the COMELEC's Oplan Baklas for dismantling campaign materials on private property because of questions over freedom of expression. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro, We are One News.
Let's find out where the national candidates are headed today. Vice President Leni Robredo will be in Romblon to meet with women mayors and to visit the community learning hub in Barangay Tugdan. Robredo will also be meeting the Romblon Fisherfolks Association of Looc before joining the Odiongan People's Rally at 1:30 p.m. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno will be campaigning around Nueva Ecija, and Moreno will start the day with a town hall meeting at Cabiao before joining a motorcade on their way to Cabanatuan City. Calio Didi Guzman will be attending the Pandesal Forum at the Kamuning Bakery Cafe in Quezon City. De Guzman is expected to discuss women's issues and welfare in the May elections, along with Senator Risa Ontiveros, former Senator Nikki Coseteng, and Representative Arlene Brosas. Meanwhile, Senator Ping Lacson is expected to make the rounds in Parañaque City today, while Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte will visit parts of Quezon City. Duterte will first meet with drivers at the Batoda Terminal along Commonwealth Avenue before visiting residents in Payatas. And she will also talk to the members of the LGBTQ+ community, as well as barangay officials at the Great Eastern Hotel. The TNT Tropang Giga and the Blackwater Bossing secured back-to-back big wins in yesterday's PBA doubleheader. Because of TNT's complicated schedule with the FIBA World Cup qualifiers, their bout with Terra Firma Jeep proved crucial. And fortunately for Coach Chot's squad, it was a hot shooting night, with the Tropang Giga sinking 74 in the paint to claim victory at 127-107. Their next big challenge is to beat Northport in their match tomorrow.
We have to find a way to stop the Northport offensive juggernaut. I mean, all those guys all those guys are buckets, you know, they're import. Jamel, Robert Bohick, we know Arwin is playing some of the best basketball of his life.
And finally, the Blackwater Bossing put an end to their 29-game losing streak, an all-time high in PBA history, as their game against the Magnolia Hotshots had no more bearing in this conference. Still, Blackwater coach Ariel Vanguardia hopes that their 101-100 victory against the Hotshots will pave the way for more wins to come.
We still have one game to still be better than the previous conference. So very lucky kami na nabigyan kami ng pagkakataon. As I mentioned in previous interview, if I'm coaching against Blackwater, all I have to coach is like, wag naman sa atin ma-break yung streak, wag naman sa atin. But this team, and I made mistakes along the way, this conference, I have to admit it. I think we're a better team than just one victory.
And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later at 9 a.m. as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.